Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. It's another Q&A with the Ibfp. So let's just get into your questions, comments, concerns, and let's just kind of break down what's been going on and what's on you guys' mind. The first thing I like to break in is the first question, and that question comes from SG Barca. What's your opinion on Oscar Valdez? I think he's overrated and relies only on power to get opponents off of him. He's been hurt and staggered by B-level opponents. Shout out for Mexico. Shout out to Mexico. We appreciate the love and support. Thank you, brother. I will say that Oscar Valdez has taken steps to improve his boxing game. Yes, he does rely a little bit too much on power at times, but he is taking steps by getting a new trainer, Canelo Alvarez camp, involved in his training, and so that should make him a better overall, well-rounded fighter. And but time will tell if he's making the improvements and adjustments necessary to be a better overall boxer. But that's a very great question. Thank you very much. The next question comes from Angel, the Upset Rivera. Sup, IBFP. First question is, what do you think about Davis not making weight for his fight? I think Davis not making weight for his fight is completely unprofessional and will catch up to him at some point. Second question. I know this is a redundant question, but why do people keep making Errol Spence Jr. this wicked monster when he's still improving at 147? I agree. I don't think that Errol Spence Jr. has proven anything at 147. He beat a broken Kell Brook coming off a knockout loss and an eye surgery. So how are you getting maximum credit for that? And who was also weight trained coming down from 160 back to 147 when we know that he was struggling to even make the weight in the first place. That's why he was so willing to move up to fight Triple G at 160 to see what he had. So, Lamont Peterson had already been stopped before Errol Spence Jr. even fought him. So people like to hype him up. It's like anyone Errol Spence Jr. fights, they hype up to be greater than what he was. Carlos Ocampo, I had a guy arguing with me about Carlos Ocampo. And I'm like, Carlos Ocampo is a tomato can on a domestic level who had never fought out of Mexico against a quality opponent. Why are we putting him in with Errol Spence Jr. acting like this is anything special? He obviously had a low IQ, because he didn't use lateral movement to keep Errol Spence Jr. at bay. But that's a very good point. Errol Spence Jr. is very beatable. He's human, and he's no monster that people are making him out to be. Also, there's a lot of people saying Lomachenko is pound for pound number one. I don't feel that way, but you got a lot who do. I don't think Lomachenko has done enough to be pound for pound number one. I mean, would Terrence Crawford be pound for pound number one if he lost the fight? Would Canelo Alvarez be pound for pound number one if he got knocked out by Gennady Golovkin? You have to understand that Lomachenko losing a fight early in his career when he doesn't have a lot of fights is a huge deal, and people like to gloss over that. I think Lomachenko is an elite level fighter. I think he's pound for pound. I just don't think he's number one. He beat a small Guillermo Rigo. I think he's getting too much credit for that. Way too much credit for that. So at the end of the day, I think Loma's a pound for pound fighter. I just don't think he's top three. Any ranking outside of the top three, I can give Loma. He could be 4, he could be 5, but the top three, Vasyl Lomachenko has not done enough to be ranked in the top 3, period. But that's just my perspective. What do you think about what Loma said in regards to waiting on Mikey after the Errol Spence Jr. fight? If Lomachenko is waiting on Mikey Garcia after the Errol Spence Jr. fight, I don't know if that makes sense, because even Mikey Garcia's dad stated that Mikey may have trouble making 135 pounds again. So there you have it with that. Thank you very much, Angel. I appreciate it, brother. William Gomez, who's a better pure boxer, Idris Landy Lara or Danny Jacobs? I think both of these guys are elite level boxers. I think they're both pure. I can't say one is better than the other. I think that Idris Landy Lara is a lot more defensively responsible than Danny Jacobs, but I believe the reason why is because Danny Jacobs feels like he doesn't have to be as defensively responsible because he knows he's a good boxer, but he's a boxer that also has elite level power. Lara doesn't have that same power, so he's not going to take the same chances offensively that Danny Jacobs takes, to win fights, to get knockdowns, things like that. Great question, William. The next question is from Daniel B. Harrison versus Lara. How do you see that fight playing out? I think it is Landy Lara beats Tony Harrison night and day, all day, every day. I think Lara's levels above Harrison. He can cut off the ring. He can outbox him. And I think Harrison would be foolish enough to sit in the pocket with Lara because Lara's not a huge puncher. Does Lara still have the ability to beat anyone at 154? Absolutely. I think Lara can beat literally almost anyone at 154. In my opinion, when he lost that fight to Jared Swift Hurd, it was a 1-point fight. And at the time that he was knocked down in the 12th round. He wasn't knocked out. He was knocked down in the 12th round. And I had Lara up on the cards, and I had Lara winning that fight by 1 point, if I'm being honest and unbiased. But that doesn't mean that, you couldn't have had her winning. It's all subjective. I would have liked to see the rematch just to put a stamp on things. I think that people just look at Erislandy Lara because he doesn't have an appealing style, that they think that he's a garbage fighter, and that's not the truth. Just because he doesn't have an appealing style or crazy knockout power doesn't mean that he's not one of the best boxers we've ever seen. Great question. Miguel Burchett versus Tank. Who do you have winning? At this point, I'm at an impasse on that fight, for the simple fact that I need to see more from both fighters, and also from the fight that, I think it's premature, because Tank is the type of guy that has shown that he's not professional, missing weight, and I know it's going to catch up with him at some point. He's just not a disciplined fighter. He's immature. He's young. He just doesn't have it all together. He's not a focused guy, and I think that at some point it's going to catch up, and he will be exposed for it. Great question. The next question is from Frankie Gallegos. Floyd and Pac-Man are around the same age. Is Floyd a fraud, or is Pac just a real boxer? I think that, that these guys need to get it on, just to kind of, because it'll be a more interesting fight the second time around. But at the same time, I look at that as a boring fight. I see 10 more fights I'd like to see Pac involved in. I see 10 more fights I'd like to see Floyd involved in. I don't want to see these guys fighting each other again, because it would seem a little boring. But at the same time, I believe Pac would do it differently. But it is what it is. How did Bernard Hopkins fight until? I believe he fought until about 49 years old, or at least that was the last time he held the belt. Great question, Frankie Gallegos. I appreciate it. The one Flyboy Yup comes out basically saying that Floyd cherry picks. In Floyd's biggest wins, he's labeled as a cherry pick and caught fighters at the right time, but he openly called out guys. If you go through and read his comment, it's a very long one, so I'm not going to be able to go through the whole thing. Essentially what he's saying is, Canelo would fall into the category, because if you look at his resume, it's similar to Floyd when it comes to Canelo's biggest wins. So basically he's saying, Canelo, and Floyd, they both are similar cherry pickers at the right time on certain fighters. And so in my response to that is, I believe that on Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s resume, he doesn't have a Danny Jacobs level opponents like Canelo Alvarez will have, which is a 50-50 fight, a pick'em fight, a fight where either guy could win. And the reason why I say that is because Floyd fought Manny, yes, but he fought Manny too late. He didn't fight Manny in his prime, before Manny started taking all this punishment and started declining. So if he would have fought Manny in his prime when Floyd was in his prime, then that would have changed the whole dynamic of the fight. It would have made it a 50-50 pick'em fight, and then everyone would have had a different view or aspect on the fight. And so he took Manny Pacquiao when he seen he had slowed down and when he felt it was safe to enter. Canelo Alvarez is taking Danny Jacobs at a very dangerous time. When Danny Jacobs is in his prime, he's an elite level fighter, elite level puncher. Danny Jacobs is just not getting the credit in the media because Canelo Alvarez has ascended so far. But make no mistake about it, Daniel Jacobs is a very dangerous opponent, and Canelo should get all the credit in the world for it. And so is Triple G. Triple G can literally beat anybody in the middleweight division today. So, you can't forget that. Floyd doesn't have a Triple G or Danny Jacobs on his resume, because when he fought guys, he fought them at the time that was right for him. But that's a great question. The next question is from David Cotero. Is it fair to say that if Erislandy Lara had power, he would be one of the GOATs? Absolutely. If Erislandy Lara had elite power, he would be down there unstoppable. Because he hits all these top guys clean. Absolutely. And how do you think he would have done against Mayweather? I think he could have beat Mayweather. Not only does he has the boxing ability, he has the size over Mayweather. So I think that would have helped. Not to saying he would have beat Mayweather. I think it would have been a very close and hard and competitive fight. One of the closest and most difficult fights in Mayweather's career. Mayweather may have been able to beat him because Mayweather tends to have other levels he can step up to, has a lot of skills, and one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen. But I think he would have probably been in one of the hardest, most difficult fights of his life. And I think a lot of people overlook that. Great question, David. The next question comes from D. Jefferson. David Haney and Teofimo met face to face and showed respect. They both held their stance on who won the sparring match and who will win the actual match. One thing I did notice about the two is Haney's size difference and advantage. I didn't realize he was that much taller and wider than Teofimo. I still have Teofimo winning between them, but that kind of narrows the gap for me now. What are your thoughts, my friend? Thank you very much, D, brother. I appreciate that. And, I think that is a very intriguing and telling thing, too, when you see these two guys standing side by side, face to face. And I think that'll be interesting matchup. When I favor Teofimo, it's not by a lot. I think that that Devin Haney can easily win this fight as well. It's a very close fight. It's almost a 50-50 fight, and Devin Haney can beat Teofimo. He's a better pure boxer than Teofimo with the height and reach advantage. He can stay on the outside and make it extremely difficult for Teofimo to land cleanly, and he can do that for 12 rounds. He has the ability, and he's constantly improving. So I have no doubt. But if Teofimo does catch him cleanly, he's going to sleep. So you have to look at it both ways, that, both guys are top prospects. Both guys have a lot to go on. But I agree with you 100%, D. I think it narrows the gap for me as well. Thank you. And that's a very good question. The next question is from David Catero. Chavez Sr. versus Mayweather Jr. I think that's an interesting fight. Unfortunately, I still got to go with Mayweather Jr. I think it'll be a very intriguing fight, but Mayweather Jr. is just too skilled, too much. Meldrick Taylor versus Mayweather Jr. I'd have to go with Mayweather Jr. as well. Mayweather Jr. he's just one of the greatest fighters I've ever seen, regardless of his cherry picking, regardless of his style. It's hard for me to pick against him unless I see another fighter that possesses certain qualities to contrast what he does. But I don't think Mayweather would beat Chavez or Meldrick easily, but I think that he would beat them. Chavez Sr. versus Pacquiao. I'd have to go Pacquiao. I think, you know what? I don't know. I think that's a very close fight. It's a 50-50 toss-up fight. I couldn't pick that fight right now. It's too close. But that's a great question. I appreciate it. The next question comes from D. Jefferson. Skills-wise, which heavyweights do you believe is on Usyk's level? I think Usyk is a step above all current heavyweight skill-wise. I would have to make Fury the exception, of course. I know Usyk doesn't hit as hard as some of the top guys, but where do you have him skill-wise? I can agree with that. I think skill-wise, Usyk may be the most skilled. Him and Tyson Fury. I'd put Tyson Fury at the top, then Usyk, and then everyone else after. But here's the thing. I think in the heavyweight division, skill is not as important as it is in every other division. Every other division, skill plays a major part, and it plays a major part in the heavyweight division. But the fact that all heavyweights are so big, so massive, and with one punch can end the fight, all heavyweights can, not just Wilder. All heavyweights has that ability. I think that since that's the case, it's very dangerous if you're not a big enough fighter, if you're a smaller heavyweight and you can't take those type of shots. We've never seen Usyk take those type of shots. We know Usyk has the skills. That's not going to be a point of debate for me. I think Usyk is very skilled, very talented, and has the skill set to beat anyone. But can he take those shots? Because we've seen Usyk take shots before from pretty much every opponent. And can he take those same thunderous, powering shots, from Luis Ortiz? Can he take him from a Joseph Parker? Can he take him from an Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, from a Dillian White? Can he take those type of shots? Can he hold on and not get exhausted with all that body and weight being constantly applied on him and sitting on his chest? We don't know. We haven't seen that from Usyk. So this is his first fight. Hopefully it's a good top 10 ranked boxer, so we can get a true gauge of how good Usyk really is and where he is in the heavyweight division. I rate Usyk very highly. And so, I think that'll be a big point of contention as far as how good he can be and how good he will be. Thank you very much, D. The next question comes from PVNCHOS14. A healthy, great condition Thurman can give anyone that work. Do you agree? I think a healthy, great condition Thurman, the Thurman that we knew before, he could beat almost anyone, but he could also lose to almost anyone. The only reason why I say that is he didn't blow Sean Porter out of the water, and he didn't blow Danny Garcia out of the water. The second half of the Danny Garcia fight, he started losing rounds, and Sean Porter was competitive on him all night. I think that, Sean Porter has improved leaps and bounds since their first fight. And we don't even know if Keith Thurman can ever be the same at this point. Even if he does come back the same, Sean Porter has improved. So I think that's still a very close fight. And so, I think that'll be interesting. I think Thurman can still possibly beat Porter, can still possibly beat Danny Garcia, and can still possibly beat Errol Spence. I just don't see him beating Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford has too many skills, too many tricks in the bag, too many things he can do. But that's a great question. The next question is from P.O. Lee. Thoughts on Nico Hernandez? Medaled in the same Olympics as Shakur, but I haven't heard much of him since. Nico Hernandez fought on the DAZN card, I believe, earlier this year, end of last year, and it was a very interesting card where they actually went to Kansas, and so I thought that was a fantastic fight. Thousands of people showed up to watch Nico. Nico's actually going to be fighting this month, I believe, and so it's going to be on an MMA type of card. He's not going to be fighting in MMA. I believe it's going to be broadcasted by an MMA outlet or something of that sense, but Nico Hernandez needs to sign with the top promoter to get more exposure. He's a very interesting kid. He's very talented and skilled, and I enjoyed watching his fight. I just want to see him sign with a promoter. He needs to sign with Matchroom, PBC, Top Rank. He needs to sign with someone who can promote him to get him up to that level. I think the two best places for Nico Hernandez to sign with will be either DAZN, with Eddie Hearn, or even Golden Boy, or even sign with Top Rank, because say what you want about Top Rank, but they build their fighters into stars. So that's a very good move for Nico Hernandez. But this concludes part 1 of the Q&A with the IBFP. Please stay on the lookout for part 2.